Well, hello, everyone. Well, we've got a couple of weeks behind us in the new 118th Congress, and most of our focus has been passing legislation to clean up the mess made through the mismanagement of Congress by the Democrats and the mismanagement of the nation by the Biden administration. While the rest of America, especially Georgians, have long ago put the COVID pandemic behind us and returned to a life of normalcy, Washington, D.C. has desperately tried to hold on to the rules, regulations, and mandates that were imposed by the Biden administration and the Washington bureaucrats. Until last month, when Republicans finally took control of the House, Democrats were still imposing COVID restrictions on Capitol Hill. Committees were still allowing members to attend via video teleconference. Members were allowed to vote via proxy on the House floor, and there remained significant restrictions on who was actually allowed to be inside the Capitol or the House office buildings. There were several committee hearings that I attended in person where several Democrats, and yes, a few Republicans, actually attended the hearing via video teleconference while sitting in their office on Capitol Hill. Sometimes these members were in offices that were in the same building as the hearing, and some merely feet away from the hearing room, but yet still sitting in their office via teleconference. However, those remaining vestiges of COVID overreach are over, at least in the House of Representatives, that is. The Republicans passed rules out of the House and committees that have now ended proxy voting and remote attendance of hearings. Members of the House of Representatives are now once again required to show up to work. Now, while we're requiring members of Congress and staff to once again get back to work, the Biden administration has continued with COVID policies when it comes to the federal workforce. Nearly 50% of federal workforce nationwide are still teleworking, while 65 to 70% of federal workers in Washington, D.C., they're still working from home. This has created significant hardships on Americans because so many IRS employees have yet to return to work. Tax refund checks that normally take days to weeks to send to taxpayers are now taking months. Virtually every government agency has massive backlogs, which are affecting millions of Americans. While the rest of America is getting dressed and heading to work every morning, I and my Republican colleagues believe that so should the federal workforce. This week, the House of Representatives passed the Show Up Act, which requires federal agencies to return to the 2019 pre-pandemic work and attendance requirements within 30 days. This bill got bipartisan support, and even the mayor of Washington, D.C. supported this bill. Another Republican bill passed out of the House this week actually brings an end to the COVID public health national emergency, which President Biden has continued to renew over and over again. This emergency declaration has allowed the president to have significant powers to spend money and impose oppressive policies and regulations on Americans. Some of these were needed during the initial onset of COVID, but that was 3 years ago, and now it's time for the administration to end this national emergency. Since the Senate has already passed an identical measure, this bill is already on its way to the White House. Now we'll see if the president follows the will of the people and the direction of Congress and actually end the state of emergency. Or we'll see if he vetoes the bill just to hang on to this power. Another bill passed by the House is the Freedom for Healthcare Workers Act. This bill finally brings an end to the Biden-imposed vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. During the pandemic, President Biden imposed this mandate requiring all employees in medical facilities that receive federal funding to take the COVID vaccine. This mandate created a new healthcare crisis in the country by forcing many skilled and experienced medical professionals out of the medical profession. And this was done at a time that medical facilities were already overwhelmed with COVID patients. Hospitals and other medical offices were so understaffed they were forced to postpone other types of treatments. This bill ends the one-size-fits-all and heavy-handed mandate that was imposed on healthcare workers, and it allows hospitals, nursing homes, and other providers to safely staff their facilities without oppressive government hurdles. Another major change made by Republicans has been to efficiently and effectively manage the operations of the House of Representatives. Now, during the past 4 years, it was nearly impossible to schedule events and meetings because of the gross mismanagement by Speaker Pelosi and House Democrats. The ongoing joke in Washington, D.C. is that there are actually two time zones here. There's Eastern Time Zone and Capital Time. That's because of the haphazard way the House has been run. Committee hearings and floor votes rarely ever started on time, and when we're on the floor voting and the vote is a 15-minute vote, that vote would stretch into hours. However, since the Republicans are in control of the House now, things have been running on time. Just last week, we voted on over 30 amendments and the final passage of a bill in less than 2 hours. I heard evidence of this at the Reagan Airport last week while I was waiting on my flight back to Georgia, and it was shortly after we had just had this vote series. I overheard two Democrats talking at the airport about how efficiently the House is running. One of the Democrats said the only reason that we're going home right now is because the Republicans are in charge. They definitely run things much better than we ever did. This is the type of thing that we have been focused on as Republicans during the campaign, and we're focused on now. Not only to make the House of Representatives run better, but get the government out of the way of the American people so we can make America run better. We are on our way to restoring this nation to one that is free, safe, and full of opportunity. God bless you, and God bless America.